Hello, friends, followers, and fellow realtors. Welcome to the Waves podcast created by the Highland Lakes Association of Realtors. We designed this podcast for realtors to help innovate, educate, and elevate their real estate practice, one ripple at a time. Our goal is to help navigate the waves of the industry and dive into local trends, topics, and beyond by interviewing experts that add value to our mission. Think of us as your proverbial life jacket to keep you afloat in these crazy times. We hope to make a splash in your day.
Welcome to the Waves podcast. My name is Megan Fox-Kuykendall. I'm a realtor and local attorney here in Marble Falls, and I have with me today Dr. Gasaway, who's the superintendent of Marble Falls ISD. Welcome, Dr. Gasaway. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we're here today to talk about the school bond that is on the ballot this
May the 3rd.
Okay, May the 3rd, so
yes,
very
ma'am.
soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, and can you start out by giving us a little overview of the bond?
Sure. Let me start with just kind of jumping into one of the very first things that I think that people need to know is there was some real confusion when we called it about, didn't you just do a bond in the fall? We were on the ballot in November. We're going to be on the ballot in May, and there was some real confusion about, didn't you do a $2.2 million bond? And what I would say to those people is we actually did not. In the fall, we did what's called a voter-approved tax rate election, and what that would have done, it would have added $2.2 million on the maintenance and operation side of the budget. It would have given us the opportunity to look at funding for raises, benefits, supplies, those kind of things. As we adopted a deficit budget during the summer, it would have given us money to try to make up for that deficit and address some of the salaries that we weren't able to accomplish when we started with the budget process. That didn't pass, and so on Monday night, this past Monday night, we announced that we're going to be having to make some cuts, $2.4 million in cuts to try to have a balanced budget going into this next year. And so that was the Vader in the fall. In the spring, it is a bond, and a bond is like going out for a home improvement loan. It's where we're asking the taxpayers to give us permission to have a $172.2 million bond. It's divided into 4 propositions. That's new from the last bond because the last bond in 2018 was 1 proposition. In 2019, the state legislature passed a law that makes us have to divide it up, and so it's going to be 4 propositions, $172.2 million, and I'll talk about each one when we kind of get into them with some more specificity, but the other thing that I would say to you that I would want people to know on the quick overview is that the interest and sinking tax rate, that debt side of our tax rate, is 21.53 cents. On whether all 4 propositions pass or all 4 fail, that tax rate will not change. It will be 21.53 on May the 4th, the day after the election, no matter what the outcome of the election will be. And so those are some of the quick high points of what I would say.
Okay. And how does that number 2153 compared to other districts in the area?
You know, when you look at our overall tax rate, which you've got the maintenance and operation, and then you've got the interest and sinking, that we're right at 89 cents, and we are one of the lower tax rates in the Hill Country area. In fact, there's only a couple that we compare ourselves to that we're higher than. There's many others that are above us, and so 2153 is definitely on the lower end of the Hill Country school districts.
Well, that's great to know. And whenever we're talking about the bond and taxes, and so if I have a homestead exemption or I'm over 65, how would that impact me?
Well, the thing about this one that I would say that's different than the fall, because the fall Vader would have added 2.67 pennies. So on this one, whether you're 65 and older or you're not, that tax rate will not change. It's 21.53 no matter the outcome, whether all 4 propositions pass or they all fail, that tax rate will not change. And so no matter the age of the person.
Well, that's great news for all of us. So when we're talking about the bond, and then you mentioned the different components of the bond. There are 4 different propositions. So A, B, C, and D.
That's right.
So what is the process in determining what goes into those propositions?
Great question. So we got together a community advisory committee that started in August. They met over 5 months, and it was over 6 different meetings. And really what they did is they learned about us as a school district. At that time, they learned about the Vader. They learned from an opportunity to talk to some of our kids and what are the things the kids are interested in. Some of our high school students got to tour some of our facilities. And then ultimately, that group is what narrowed it down to a recommendation that they recommended to the Board of Trustees. The board took that, really worked through that process of the recommendation, and then on January 31st, the board unanimously approved the $172.2 million bond. So it's that community advisory committee. It's made up of parents, community members, teachers, administrators. That's the group that made it up, and students. We had a number of students that participated. So.
And how do you become, if say I wanted to be a member of that community advisory committee, is that an open process?
So what we did is we tried to just look. We talked to I talked to our school board members about anyone that they were interested in. I talked to our principals about trying to get people involved, parents, teachers. All of our administrators were invited, whether or not they were able to come or not. And so what I would say is it tried to open the door. We didn't have everybody that were invited participate. Sure. What I would tell you is if somebody's interested in trying to get involved in MFISD in some way, shape, or form, if they'll reach out to me and let me know, we've got ways we can plug them in. We've got a variety of committees, from our district committee on our district-based improvement committee, campus-based improvement committees. We've got our special education committee that gets together, a health community advisory committee. We've got a lot of opportunities where parents can get involved and be a part of the kind of what's happening behind the curtain. But what I would tell you more than anything is I hope that we're very transparent, that the curtain is really not a curtain. We want parents to be involved. We want community members to be involved in our processes. And if somebody's interested, let me know and we can find a place to plug you in.
Well, and it sounds like the first way, the soonest way to get involved is to learn more about the proposition and then also get out and vote.
Absolutely. So if you're not registered to vote, that's coming up real quick. I want to say April 3rd is the deadline to get registered. Hopefully everybody is registered. For me, I don't get to advocate for or against this. I only get to educate. And so that's one of the things when I go out, people want me to, what do you think? How do you think we should vote? I don't get to say anything like that. I'll tell you this. I think we live in a country that I feel extremely blessed that we get to vote and get to make decisions about our community, about our state, about our national government. I think one of the worst things that people do is they go into those opportunities uneducated. And so my hope is that whether you're listening to this podcast or you come to one of our events, we've got a variety of different events. This morning, I counted that we're going to have 49 events. Some of those have already come and passed, but we've got some community events coming up that are going to be advertised on our website. We're going to be at Lake Shores Church. We're going to have an event at First Baptist. We're going to have an event at Numinous. We'll have a couple right there at our central office administrative building behind Super Taco. And so there's a lot of ways that people can get out and be able to see and hear what's going to be the components of that if they don't listen to this podcast.
Okay. And then I think I know of one too out at in Cottonwood at the
Yes, ma'am.
Outside at the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
So that will be a fun family-focused event where everyone can come learn more. As a way to tie into all of that, so we've been talking about the propositions and the specific propositions. We know that there are 4, right? And so Proposition A, B, C, and D.
Right.
Let's go over each one. Proposition A is covering...
What it's covering is... district-wide renovation of district-wide facilities, safety and security. We've got some playgrounds, safety related to some of our facilities and traffic flow. There's dollars allocated for elementary expansion, that if one of our elementaries starts growing significantly, we've got some dollars allocated for that. Every campus is going to get some help with, I already mentioned playgrounds, but also digital marquees is one of the things, trying to keep our marquees up to date. And then a few others. Our auditorium's going to get renovated. Its original bathrooms. If you come to one of our events, the bathrooms, the auditorium, the back of the house where the changing rooms and bathrooms are for the kids. Those are a few. Band hall will be moving from where it currently resides into a PE gym. That's going to be a great chance for them to expand their footprint, but also add on some things.
And where is that? Which or campus?
It's going to be at the high school.
Okay.
High school. And then high school cheer and drill team will go into the existing band hall, which will give them a dedicated large space that they've not, for sure, the cheerleaders have just bounced around to different areas, and this will give them a chance to have a true dedicated space for them to be able to work and learn and grow. And so a couple of the things that I hit on that I just want to hit on again, I talked about some traffic flow. If you've ever dropped a kid off at Highland Lakes Elementary School, especially on the first day of school, you will have traffic that goes all the way out to 1431. And so we're going to be working on a parent drop-off loop that will help take our kids, our parents off of 1431 and be able to have that be a part of that safety plan. As well as Spicewood Elementary School, we're going to be having a loop that helps get them off of 191 there, right by Opie's and Spicewood Elementary School. And so those are some of the big things related to our Proposition A. There is some technology related to that, but it's things like the Wi-Fi hotspots on and the towers and all the things behind the scenes, the wiring, those kind of things. The devices are in Prop B, and we'll talk about Prop B here in just a second. But that kind of gives you a good flair of most of the stuff on Prop A.
So does this create additional hotspots at the schools?
What it would do is make sure that there will be funds allocated that we would be able to have a good, robust Wi-Fi network where we don't have dead spots in our school, where we have, every kid has a device for all the way from our elementaries to our high school. Every teacher has a device. And so we've had in the past some areas of especially our high school and middle school campuses, where it's the larger campuses where you just don't have good Wi-Fi connectivity. Mm-hmm. We've worked, and we've got a great executive director of technology, Nathan Fink, who he does a great job of making sure that we're hitting that and getting better and better every single year.
What would you say? Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're great.
What would you say the benefit of the devices and the technology improvement is to the students?
Well, as far as incorporation of technology into our students, we're living in a day and age where kids are using technology 24/7 many times, and you almost want them to use it less. Right. But what we want to be able to do is when a kid graduates from Marble Falls High School, you want them to be technology competent and able to go out and use it in college and not have things that are being asked of them in college or in high school that they've not had exposure to, that they don't have the ability and tools to be able to do. And so I remember the very first time I created a PowerPoint and how many years ago that was, and just yes. how technology has changed, and you can use Canva and Prezi and all sorts of things to just do the same things that only one thing accomplished years ago. And kids are so smart and so creative. Many times they can teach us how to do things, but every kid's different, and we want to make sure that our kids have similar experiences related to technology, related to learning, that they're going to walk out with a guaranteed and viable curriculum of the things they've learned.
Well, and I think that promotes job creation and sustaining or improving the community itself and the students that remain here, or like myself that move away yeah. and become more educated and then come back, and then it gives them a stepping stone into a career base. One of the things I really love about this community is how many people come back
to the community. I think that's one of the fun things. I know I even though this is year 9, I'm still in many ways an outsider coming in, and I consider this home. I love being a part of it. But one of the best things about it is every year at our convocation, when we start the school year, we ask our graduates who are teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, if you graduated from Marble Falls ISD, stand up, and we recognize them. And we always have a number that have come home. And that's one of the best things about our district, I think, is just how many people, not only within the district, but within our community, have come back home. And I think, to expand on the original question, I think our community expects when kids graduate from Marble Falls ISD that they're ready to be good, strong members of our society, contributing members of our society. And so making sure that those kids have skills that they're able to enter the workforce, whether it's straight into the workforce, go to college, go to a trade school, whatever their career path may be, that we've given them the tools to be able to be successful.
Well, thank you for that explanation and talking about. So that was Proposition A.
That is.
And then another major portion of this is Proposition B, which is
it's technology.
Right,
So,
okay.
and it's a small one. It actually is the smallest. So Proposition A is $131 million. Proposition B is $2.2 million. And it covers just a replacement of devices, that it allocates the dollars that as kids' devices expire, that there's a lifespan on a computer, there's a lifespan on our cell phones, that when those expire, that we've got the dollars to be able to do a refresh of every single device over the next 5 years. It's not where we're going to need to do it immediately. It will be something that over time we'll be able to do. But this goes back to one of the things that the state really singled out was, if you're buying devices, that you need to make sure that that's on a different proposition. And so that's why it's on Proposition B by itself, is that computers for kids or the educators have to be on a different proposition. So.
Okay. And then Proposition C.
It's athletic.
Okay.
It's going to be it's 5 different things, and so replacing the turf at our football stadium. It's one that will not be done immediately because we just replaced it in 2019. But the life of artificial turf is somewhere between probably 8 and 10 years, and so it will be something we do in the future. But the dollars are allocated for that replacement. We're actually going to have turf at our softball stadium, and so there's dollars allocated for that. A scoreboard at our football stadium, so replacing the old scoreboard with a new digital scoreboard. This will be an opportunity where part of what the community advisory talked about is incorporation of some of our career technology education classes, being able to go in and create things, videos that you can show on the scoreboard, instant replay if we were to do that, marketing opportunities for our business classes to look at the scoreboard. A couple of other things, our programs are starting to grow, and so we're going to be building some locker rooms. If it were to pass, we'd be building locker rooms in the Max Copeland gym, one for the boys, one for the girls. And then we're going to be moving our baseball field from where its current location north of the stadium. And part of that has to do with Prop D that I'll talk about in a minute. But when we rebuild that, we would be looking at turf for that one as well.
Okay. And whenever you say you're moving it, does that include a full renovation and like a rebuild, or a new facility?
It would be a new facility, okay. a rebuild. And what that has to do with is Proposition D, is we were looking at a lot of school districts around us have what's called a multi-purpose facility. And what it is, it's artificial turf inside that for what's being proposed, it's a 60-yard field with a 10-yard end zone, 5 yards on the edges with some track lanes included. But what it would be used for, it could be used for our athletic programs, all of them. It's going to have some drop-down nettings where you can have multiple athletic programs using it at once. The band program would be able to use it. PE classes, middle school athletics if they needed to, if field day, and I know many of your listeners probably have kiddos, whether they're in Marble Falls ISD or other places, but field day, if all of a sudden it rains, that this could be used for field day. And so drill team, cheerleaders, a variety of different programs could use it. And so within that, that multi-purpose facility will also include a practice gymnasium as well as a new weight room. And so those are the things that it's a 26 million that's included. So,
and with this multi-purpose practice facility, this would have an overall positive impact on the district in retaining students, bringing in talent for teachers and coaching and athletics and sporting events, as well as other encouraging extracurricular activity among our students.
You know, when our community advisory talked about this one, the kids that were on that committee talked about how great it would be. What I would also add is that when I was a kid, I grew up in Odessa at a school called Odessa Permian High School, and it's famous for Friday Night Lights. I remember that we could practice at 120 degrees, and we would get one water break in the middle of practice where every kid would get one cup of water, and that was just what we did. We could practice when it was below 30 degrees outside, and there was nothing saying you couldn't. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, the UIL is very specific about when we can and cannot go indoors or outdoors, and may have to go indoors. And I know that the Community Advisory Committee talked about how many practices were lost by different athletic programs, our band program, due to the hot and the cold. And so this would be something that would allow those programs to continue to practice even when the temperatures outside wouldn't let them get outside. They can go inside, because the difference between what that temperature is on the inside versus outside is probably about 20 degrees, if not maybe even more.
Mm-hmm. Are there other districts in the area that have these multi-purpose?
There are. Burnett has one, Lago Vista has one, Lake Travis has one, and I believe Llano has one. They're becoming more and more common. Just, again, some of the very things that I talked about that the Community Advisory talked about are the reasons that many of those districts are looking at those.
And when we talk about athletics, so athletics is a UIL sanctioned or activity. Yeah. There you go. And what is the benefit to children and students to have access to extracurricular activities and UIL sanctioned events?
You know, for me, you just hit on probably one of the biggest things that, as I've been an administrator, I think high school and middle school are too short to not get involved. And I think kids that get involved in activities are going to be better students. They're going to be better citizens. They're going to have the memories that connect them. Like, I had special moments because I was in, and whatever that is. And so my hope for every student that is in Marble Falls ISD is that they find a place, they find their niche to just find and connect and be a part of something, whether it's fine art programs, band, choir, theater, whether it's athletics, or we've got a variety of just clubs that kids can get involved in that just will give kids an opportunity to really connect and be a part of their experience, and just make it a more meaningful, well-rounded experience.
And meaningful for the entire community as a whole, and what they're able to give back, and learning discipline. I was involved in sports, so I think I gained a lot of insight in the discipline and just like the self-worth and the experience of that, and being able to contribute back to the community as a whole. And when we're talking about community and community engagement and how we can keep the community involved, there are a number of community members in our area that do not have children in the school district. What would your message be to them?
Well, my message on this bond would be a couple of things. One, and I've already hit on it, but to hit on it one more time, the tax rate, that INS tax rate is 2153. It will not change. It will not change whether you're 65 and older. It will not change if you're 18 and a homeowner. It's going to be 2153 whether all 4 propositions pass or they don't. Another thing I would hit on is that I think our community expects our schools to be good. They expect our kids as they come out to be good, contributing citizens and members of our society. And so, that as you look at, the opportunities to invest in schools, that you want to consider what kind of school you want your community to have and what you want that school to be. And so the other thing I would say is if anyone has any questions, I would welcome the opportunity to visit with them to just make sure that they're educated. Like I said, I think educated voters are the best kind of voters.
Absolutely. And where can they find information about that?
They could go to the website, because I know I missed a few things when we talked about Prop A is so big, and I missed like that there's a CTE expansion. I missed that we're going to have buses as part of what's on that. They're buying buses and maintenance vehicles, and I know there's more that I just probably didn't hit it as well as I could. And so
we still have time, so we'll make sure to.
Well, one of the best places they could go if they really want to dig in is that they could go to our website, www.loveinspire.com, and that will get them. That's our vision statement is Marble Falls ISD has an unyielding commitment to love every child and inspire them to achieve their fullest potential. And so what better website? I'm surprised it wasn't already taken, but it's not. So www.loveinspire.com. And if they don't remember that, if they'll just go to our district website, and then there's going to be a link right at the top that they can get to the bond website and be able to just learn about it. There's a lot of information out there. There's going to be information meetings out there. If they get on our Facebook, they'll be able to go to a informational meeting. Or, like I just said, if they have questions and they want to visit one-on-one, I am happy to call anyone back and just visit with them and just try to make sure that they have their questions answered, because when they step in the booth, whether they vote one way or the other, if they're educated, then at least they're making a well-informed decision about what they're deciding.
Thank you for that. And so www.loveinspire.com. I want to go back to a point we talked about earlier, and you mentioned that the turf on the football field
Yes.
may be fit in later on.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the timeline in implementing? So once we get the bond money from
Right.
the school district, how do you decide what goes first?
What we would do is we would work with our school board, we'd work with architects, we'd work with just trying to decide what are the top priorities. For me, one of my top priorities is those expansion of on Prop A, the vehicular expansions at Highland Lakes and at Spicewood, trying to get those done as quickly as possible. And if possible, before the first day of school. We would have to look at some of the programming of, if we're going to do this, where do we need to, what do we need to do first? And so we would be working quickly with that. You don't plan those too much in advance, because ultimately it's going to be up to our voters whether or not these are approved, and so you don't spend a lot of time and energy on like making a big plan of these are the order of the events. Some of the ones related to our district-wide facilities and just renovation of those district-wide facilities, those are going to be things that probably will occur over summer or at nighttime. HVAC work, LED lighting work, those can all take place during evening hours. And actually on the last bond, that's one of the things that did is a lot of work during the evening hours. But if you're replacing tile in the middle school, if you're going in there and ripping up all the tile and putting down new tile, then at that point in time, you're talking about, all right, that's a summer project. And can we wouldn't be able to tackle it probably by the time you talk to someone who does the tile work, can they be ready on the last day of school to go in and start doing their work? And so that would probably be a next summer or the next, and trying to figure out where do you want all those to occur to be able to get them done.
You mentioned the middle school.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there anything in the bond package related to the middle school?
There's quite a bit. The middle school is a couple of things I would mention. One of the things the district did is a facility condition assessment, and that gave us the ability to look at all of our different facilities and what are some of the needs. The middle school is one of our ones that had kind of the most needs, and when people walk around our campuses, I think we've got good facilities that people can be proud of. Part of that is because our community has invested in trying to make sure our facilities stay up to date. And so, but when you walk around the middle school, it's the one that's probably showing its age the most. And so there's a good bit of funds related to just the tile, painting, ceiling tiles, HVAC, LED lighting, wiring of our safety systems, fire alarms, those kind of things. And so it was one that community advisory committee really had. They got to see a lot. We met one night there at the middle school, so they got a tour of the middle school and really noticed just some of the age of it. And so there's definitely within that district-wide renovation, there's funds at every single one of our campuses where every campus is going to be touched, but the middle school is probably one that has a little bit more just because of what it showed on that facility condition assessment.
And do those facility condition assessments, does this change? So if we have all of this list of things to be improved in each proposition, is that an evolving process?
You know, if you stay on top of it, probably every 5 years, those are going to be a different set of needs. Mm-hmm. You know, air conditioners expire, your needs change, and so what you want to try to do is just make sure you keep your facilities as good and in shape as possible. And so 5 years from now, 6 years from now, if we were considering a bond, which the last one was in 2018, so we're 7 years later, if you're doing a facility condition assessment 6-7 years from now, there's going to be a whole new set of needs. And if Prop A passes, all the ones that were addressed in that for the next 5 years should have been done, completed, and then the next set. And so one of the things I would just mention as a side note with what I just said is the last bond, it was $55 million, and 100% of the projects that were lined out, 100% of those projects were done. And it was $55 million. We were able to do it for less, and so we were able to do some things with the realized savings from some of those that came in under budget, that we were able to do even more with the last bond, which I know people know this because we all struggle when we go places. Everything costs more. That $55 million bond today would be a $90 million bond, according to the construction company we worked with on pricing that out in today's dollars. And so things have gone up a lot. And so just to kind of give context of how much a $55 million bond has changed to today.
And how do we ensure that the school district does all of the things that it's set out and promised to do?
Well, so that's a great question. And so what I would say, and this is, again, a chance, if somebody's passionate about wanting to get involved, I plan on, after we whatever happens, whether they all four pass or a combination of them pass or they all four fail, if we have some that pass, what I want to do is invite the members of the Community Advisory Committee, but if we've got members of the public who weren't a part of it that just want to be a part, to start coming alongside us and have probably about every 3 months a bond review committee that looks at how is it going, what have we done, what have we accomplished, what have we not accomplished, and what's the timeline, that we can have that idea of complete transparency related to this is what you know what's going on, you know what's coming up, you're able to see these are how we're spending the dollars that have been allocated.
Well, and in those advisory committee meetings, if you discover that, hey, we needed this much money for the LED lights. But then now we've decided, well, maybe we don't need LED lights. We need a different kind of light. I mean, that's just an example,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's a better one. But can you deviate from what's already been presented?
I think we'd want to be very cautious about
Right.
completely abandoning, because,
Well, no, I'm saying like small things,
Yeah,
right? Or maybe we don't need that anymore, and we overshot it, or because not everything is foreseeable.
As we look at each individual project, we'll look at what are the things we want to accomplish and the priorities and how much funds are allocated, and just how much can you do versus how much do you want to do, and so we'll have discussions that LED lighting's one that's easy to think about, or solar panels, just because it helps save on that maintenance and operation side, that our bills, our electric bills may go down, but I think there would be some flexibility if all of a sudden, it's not LED lighting anymore. There's a new type of light that's going to be even better than LED. Right. That we would have that flexibility to have those conversations and make those changes. But that part of what we do is we'll work with experts who will help make sure that what we're doing is going to be good and wise, and trying to make sure that every one of our projects turn out well if the bond passes, if all 4 propositions pass.
Great. So keeping with transparency, community involvement, speaking with experts, it all keeps you in line and on the path and protects the vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, great. Well, what about, I know we talked earlier about the community impact, but I want to touch on that again. If we pass the bond and we have these enhancements, and it sounds like modernization or like deferred maintenance being taken care of in the schools, how does that affect our community in having a stronger school district and a well-funded district?
I guess what I would just echo again is just for most communities, the school is probably one of the biggest employers. Maybe not your big metroplex areas where you have your big machine companies and all those kind of things. But for Marble Falls, for smaller communities, the school is probably the hub of that community. And that's one of the things I love about Marble Falls is we have a lot of Mustangs in our communities. And you want your schools to be good. You want them to be well taken care of. You want them to last for a long, long time. I watch bonds around the state, and I've seen school districts that let their schools get in such a state of disrepair that sometimes it's more cost effective to tear the school down than to and build a new one than to repair what's needs to be done. And so part of why I think that we had a bond 7 years ago, we're having one now. We did district-wide maintenance and that renovation, and we're going to do some more because we're working to try to make sure that our facilities stay in good working condition. And that way, when I think about Falls on the Colorado Museum, that's our building. It was the original elementary, middle school, high school, and it had kids in it all the way up until 1978, 1979, and then it became our administration building.
My grandmother and great-grandmother went to school
there.
So.
And I know that there's stories about sliding down the slide, the fire slide from the second floor, and how much fun that must have been. I'm too old to try to do that, but what I would say is, that's still standing, and we're still, and it's become a museum, but it's because our community from years and years ago made sure that as things needed to be updated, as things needed to be addressed, that's been a philosophy of this community for years and years.
Well, I think that perfectly sums it up, and hopefully, everyone could get out and get educated and visit the website, visit the events, speak to you directly, if they can, listen to the podcasts and the radio appearances. So again, the website I believe is www.loveandinspire.com.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Gasaway, for being here today with us with the Highland Lakes Association of Realtors Waves podcast. And we thank everyone for listening in.
Thanks for the time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.